best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
Discover crypto family, we're getting that price action we could have only dreamed of. And for those of you that have been stacking throughout all the chop and frustration, you're starting to see those massive gains to the upside. This is what it has felt like. We've seen the price over the weekend make some wonderful, wonderful price action candlesticks to the upside. We're seeing a little bit of a pullback right now, but as we're looking at this play out, how did this go? The chop zone that traps people up, traps people short, traps people up, traps people short, and then just continues pushing higher up in here into new all-time highs yet over and over again. And yet some people are still frustrated with the market, but I'm here to tell you there are overwhelming signals that higher is not only in the cards, but it's all but priced, not yet priced into the market because of what we're seeing in the data. I've got an incredible guest that's going to be popping on here in just a few moments. But before we dive into that, I want to talk about what's going on in the market because it is exciting, yet I think some people are going to lose their heads. And there are a couple key things that people are going to do that it's going to make them give up all their gains. So let's dive right on into it because we see the crypto total market cap is up over $4.3 trillion. Remember, not so long ago, it was at about $2.4 trillion. Yes, that was this year. That was April of this year, in fact, where we've seen price action now go up nearly $2 trillion across the crypto ecosystem. Bitcoin has been the largest winner of those gains, but we are seeing some popcorning effect. Yes, there's been some other smaller cap coins that have seen some astronomical gains, but large in part, we haven't seen the alts move yet. And this is one of those reminders that Bitcoin should ultimately be your focus when you are dancing around in this market and realizing that this is not a game. So if you're out here with your entire life savings, hoping to catch up to other players that have a lot more money, a lot more profits in this market, you're very unlikely to do it by going all in on some random meme coin or some micro cap coin. Those things are great to play in. Of course, I've got a meme coin. I've got dog on Bitcoin. I've got other altcoins like Chainlink, but Chainlink's a blue chip now, baby. We got Ethereum, of course. We've got talking about BitTensor Tau when we talk about the AI ecosystem and the infrastructure therein and how much, overwhelming capital focus is in that sector of the market. Then you got other players like Cardano and Solana, of course. BNB just absolutely melting faces to the upside, now up over $1,200 for BNB. So what gives? What should we be doing? What can we look to for a potential roadmap in Q4? Is this the top? It's, that 1,064 days after the cycle low. So people say this should be the top. Oh my God, we're coming into that 4-year cycle. Well, you know what? Considering what we're looking at in the market, I think there's a lot higher to go. It's just going to take some movement and some price action that's going to wash a lot of people out along the way. So let's get out here and look at these charts and realize that we've hit some of the key targets we talked about. We moved down into this lower trajectory, which we outlined over here, and flushed a lot of people out, just testing into this range down to 107. We moved up into the golden pocket of this range. We talked about this as it was happening. In fact, on this 4 p.m. Discover Crypto live show, I talked about as this moved up, watch for a potential reversal at the golden pocket. What we do? Tap the golden pocket in reverse, came back down, formed a higher low, maintained bullish structure. We talked about on the way up, watch the 382 for a chop zone area. What happened? Look at this. If we extend this out, look at exactly what happened. Chop zone area right at the 382. And then this is where the bulls really took over. On the movement up here for Bitcoin, the price action sliced right through not only this liquidity zone that we had highlighted, but also the golden pocket region, as you see right here. So as I stand here today before you, welcome to the Discover Crypto stream. Welcome to the family. If you're new here, I can guarantee you this is not going to be your last time tuning in. My name's Kelly Kellum. Welcome to the family. We've got to talk about what's going on, but I'm curious what you guys have going on right now in your portfolio. So I got to say good afternoon to each and every one of you. I'd love you, every single one of you, to put a GA and put bull or bear, basically going, this is Monday. So at the end of the week, Are you a bull or a bear from here? Do you think price is going to go up or down? And then also type in the last thing that you bought or sold. So GA for me, GA, bull, AV&T. That would be what I would type in. So I'm curious to see what you guys got going on. So good afternoon. Are you a bull or bear by the end of the week? And what's the last thing that you bought or sold? Let's see it in the live comments. I want to see a lot of people there getting activated. Also, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding the bell. Again, I got Kevin Svensson coming on, longtime friend of the channel, an incredible analyst in the space, OG. So let's get into some of this data I want to share before he hops in here in just a few minutes. Now, is $400,000? Is $400,000 actually possible this year, or is it absolutely outlandish? You might have seen this tweet going around, and this kind of brings it into focus. Let's understand what this means. What would $400,000 Bitcoin mean between now and the end of the year? Well, considering 2017, we went from 4,500 and in 3 months by the end of the year hit just shy of $20,000. So that's about that's a little over a 5x. Incredible. It's right. I should say a little under a 5x. Sorry. I'm thinking $25,000. Yeah. So still massive gains. Then we see 2021, $20,000 Bitcoin. And then about 3 months later, 60,000. It actually went up to about 69, but this was like going within that end of the year. And then we also see there's absolutely no reason why Bitcoin can't hit 400K by the end of this year. Now, I would think, and I really do think this, I do think this is possible, but I think this is unlikely. I don't think we're going to go from $125,000, $126,000 up to up to tapping that 400K region by December. If that happens, that, in my opinion, would be a blow off top, and we would get a bit of downside price action from there. If we went from right now, within 3 months, the end of December, between now and then, hitting $400,000. Now, do I think we can hit $400,000 in this cycle? Absolutely, I do. But I think if we hit $400,000, I think it's going to be much more likely that happens sometime, Q2, Q3 next year. But let's not lose sight of the forest for the trees. Everybody gets so excited about these projections that they forget along the way that there's so much emotional endurance that you're going to need to partake in, that you're going to need to practice as we're watching this price action move up. Because even if we went up to look at this, guys. For me to even get there, I've got to zoom out on this. So far, $400,000 would be way the heck up here. And you see how tight these moves are. In order to get all the way at that, that would be a massive move by the end of December, which would be right here. Let's see, option V, somewhere about right there. That would be a pretty large stair step to get all the way up there. Now, do I think we can get there again? Yes, but I think it's unlikely. I think what we need to focus on is get back down here to the 4-hour chart and just pay attention to what's going on here. And so if we do get dips, even at this region, which I do think at some point in the near future is very likely that we do get a dip that really scares people, that ultimately ends up being a very good buying opportunity. If it happens from where we're at right now, I'd be looking at somewhere down about this region, like this $120,000 to $118,000 region. Why would I be looking there? Because when you look at this is a 3-day chart. Come over here to the 1-week chart. When you look at this on the 1-week chart, look at all this liquidity that is now propped up below us. Now, there's not much directly below us except for right here, 123, 124,000. The next hot zone is right here, about 121. But then you start getting a lot of liquidity in here between about 116 to 120. A lot of people that have gone long. There's a lot of free liquidity here. If the market is able to come down, trick people, basically bear trap them, and then get that launch back to the upside. But I'm curious to see what he's got cooking up. We're going to be looking at his charts here in just a couple minutes and see what he is looking at. I just want to make sure I got it right there. But there's a couple other things that I'm paying attention to as well. One of those things is right now, might seem hokey, this might seem foolish, but this absolutely beautifully orange moon. Now, what is this orange moon? Well, tonight and tomorrow is the supermoon, and it's basically the first supermoon of this year. And not only is it the first supermoon of this year, we have seen a lot of tight correlation higher than 50%, like somewhere in about the 75% range this cycle with like absolute bull market pushes into full moons. Now, this could just be a time basis thing that full moons happen about every 30 days and the way the cycles kind of oscillate between bullish and bearish momentum in the market. Maybe these things are lining up. I don't care what it is. And I am not trading on looking at the full moon, being a new moon or a full moon. However, I have to also realize that we've seen a lot of persistence on the bull moon, basically let's call it the bull moon narrative. When you do get these full moons in the market, and this is a super moon, meaning it's looking at like it's about 8% larger than it normally does. Now, just look at these bull market pushes, bull market push, bull market push, bull market push, bull market push, bull market push. In this case, it was a little bit flat, didn't really happen. In this case, a little bit flat, didn't really happen. In this case, we got a little bump, didn't really happen. Again, didn't really happen. This is in that 7-month sideways consolidation until we kicked back into gear. Bull market push, bull market push, bull market push, bull market push, and then fake out. Okay, look at this, bull market push. These have a decent correlation, and depending on what we're seeing in the structure of the market, this did sell off on a new moon. So does that mean this is 100% correlated because it was bull here, bear here, bear here? No, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm super bullish on where we're at in price action, but the fact that the full moon is coming in well over here after this has already made a massive move to the upside. In fact, it kind of just shocks me because there's so many people out there that even right now wonder, how come crypto isn't moving? Well, it's just the assets that you're holding, because when you look at what's going on in the market and you realize that 10 days back, we have moved up $17,000, over 17,000, because this has gone higher than where I have this snapshotted, but $17,000 in 10 days. Now, today, we're supposed to be getting this full moon. However, we've already got $17,000 moon. So in some ways, that's not going to be correlated at all. But there's going to be some very positive price action, I think, that's going to persist this month. My point with this is very exciting, this move that we've had so far. Do not get caught in a trap where if this does pull back, that you think it's over. If it does pull back, wait for a bounce and see what the relationship is on the bounce, where if we start forming high, lower highs, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower highs, so on and so forth. As it stands right now, we want to be patient and realize that in every asset of every kind that ever is traded on public markets, what you can expect, and I talk about this regularly here, is in every bull market trend, rise, retrace, continuation, retrace, continuation, retrace, continuation, retrace, continuation. At some point, we're going to get a bigger retrace on a midterm time frame, but then you zoom out on a larger look here, and you'll get same thing: rise, consolidation, rise, consolidation, rise, a bigger retrace, continuation, bigger retrace, continuation, even larger retrace into a W formation, continuation. We are in a very primed zone right now in the markets for people to be hyper active emotionally in what they're doing, because they don't want to miss the top and exit. And there's also people that are thinking that this is going to run away, so they're buying tops. So just be a little bit patient right now as the market matures. But there's a lot of things lining up right now that are signaling price higher. So yes, we talked about a potential $400,000 Bitcoin by Christmas, but does that mean it's going to happen? Hell, if we went to $175,000 between now and then, would you be less bullish? No, for me, it just is an extension of what we're seeing in the market. And the signals are to the upside. And this is one of those major signals. It's from Ted Pillows. S&P 500 broke past this previous range high with authority. Gold has been absolutely mooning to the upside. Bitcoin has broken beyond this same sort of range high level, retested, and has not yet had that continuation extension that we're looking for. Same thing with Ethereum, but the pressures in this market, considering what direction do I think it's going to go? Well, first off, the trend is your friend until it ends. And not only is the trend your friend, we're getting more and more fuel put into the bullish posture of where this market is. So when I'm looking at S&P 500 having absolutely rocketed, gold, absolutely, up at $4,000. Bitcoin, yes, new highs, but if you take the highs out of it and you just look at the market structure, there is so much more room to go to the upside. I think some of the dampening effect, and yes, I do think Bitcoin's dampened right now, meaning not having full follow through of the bulls is because gold is performing so incredibly. This tends to front run Bitcoin by 2, 3, 4 months. S&P 500, major tech stocks, a lot of corporate money is in Bitcoin now. But why would they look to rotate when you're seeing major, almost like altcoin-like gains in the stock market? You're seeing gains on gold that you could have only dreamed about 5 years ago. It's insane. And yet we're still seeing Bitcoin persist higher, and the conditions for this going higher is only going higher. Let's see, Zachary Martin, 400K by December. Let's take it easy on the thumbnails, team. Well, hey, Zachary Martin, how about you understand what we're talking about? We're talking specifically about some things that are out there that are talking about that. So I am highlighting specifically things that stoke the narrative out there and saying, while this is possible, I think it is unlikely. I think we're going to have incredible price action into the next 2 months, into December as well. At some point, a very large pullback. I would be thrilled if we hit 200K by December. 400K possible? Likely? No. So that is what we're talking about. We got to capture people with the vibe of the day, and that is the vibe of the day. And one of these things, the data points here highlighting that we do have a pretty substantial amount of pressure to the upside. Now, beyond that, we also talk about Altseason. I mean, we have not seen the growth that everybody's been hoping for. We've seen it happen in the last 2 cycles. Why aren't my alts moving? Well, the duration of accumulation this cycle is so much more endeavored, so much more extended. And part of that reason is because when we're looking at Bitcoin, realizing Bitcoin has had all this clarity that everybody's just been wanting in the altcoin space. And it's only just started to trickle towards clarity at the end of July. Now we have an ETF for Ethereum. Of course, we're starting to get the clarity and the basically open pathway running for other alts to have ETFs. But now we have a government shutdown, so it's kind of slowing the approval process there. But that path is getting cleared. I do think we are going to get some astronomical gains in some, not all, of the altcoins that are here. So we are seeing signs and signals, not only from previous fractals, but also the landscape that's surrounding it. Do not follow somebody that's just looking at, oh my God, this fractal happened before in the past. So it has to happen this time. Some of the altcoins you're holding are probably going to astronomically moon and change lives. The majority, I don't think are. I think we're going to not have to throw the dart at the board of the altcoin market and everything moons. I think it's going to be more like different niches take turns running incredibly, and certain assets within each of those niches is going to dominate the game. So you've got to be smart. So while we're seeing fractals like this, and I do think that this is a bit of an extended accumulation before we get a run, let's be patient here. And again, the other major indices out there showing major gains. We have not seen that capital rotation yet. Beyond that, we also see the extension, the carry forward of the ETF. Remember, the Bitcoin ETF that everybody's like, this is going to send the prices to the moon. Well, we just had, I think it's 8.8. Where is it at? Right here. We've had 8.8 times the new supply issuance of demand just in ETFs. This doesn't account for like Michael Saylor buying. This doesn't account for high net worth individuals. And yet we come back over here and we see this right here is a key point that you need to understand. Morgan Stanley says it will. This is only just now starting to happen. It will support its 16,000 financial advisors, those registered investment advisors, in managing over $2 trillion if they wish to allocate and sort of push their clients towards Bitcoin and crypto assets. So while we've started to build the overwhelmingly bullish foundation that is going to see major amounts of capital coming into this market, the big players that are in the traditional finance industry that could be also further stoking this bullish fire are only now just getting the okay to start pushing these things. So with that being said, I'm going to take my ugly mug off this and bring my main man back up here, who I have not had on in quite some time. Mr. Kevin Svensson is in the black and white, back to the Stone Ages.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't know what happened. I plugged in my camera and it's just black and white. And I was like, what? Like it was like flashing colors and then it just went black and white and I didn't have time to fix it. So here we are.
Well, your charts are going to be colorful. So, well, long time no see, brother. I know you and I used to do every Monday over on BitLab. I'm doing the 4 p.m.s here on Discover Crypto. So I think I'd really like to introduce you to the broader Discover Crypto family. Everybody, this is one of the first crypto YouTubers I ever watched back in 2017, 2018. He's an OG in the space, and he's got a great handle on the macro of what's going on in the space, and also not just a Bitcoin maxi, also understanding there's other plays to be made. So I'd love to ask you, Kevin, what's your general thoughts about where we're at in this cycle? The 4-year cycle says things should be ending soon. Other people believe that this is that sort of 4-year cycle narrative is very likely going to be broken. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, I hear this a lot, the discussion about the 4-year cycle being broken, but it doesn't really make much sense to me because most of our cycles are driven by the US election. If you look at it, I mean, people never really talk about that. They just say 4-year cycle as if it's just like a random 4 years that it follows, but it's the US election. And so usually what we get is a market bottom. Well, depends on what area you're talking about. At least for crypto, since crypto has been around, you get a market bottom around midterm elections, and then you recover going into like right before and right after the election. So that is the thing that I see. I don't see a reason why we wouldn't follow that. And people come to this conclusion, I've noticed, based on like somewhat minimal differences in the cycle, like whether Bitcoin topped today or in March of next year. I don't think that changes the 4-year cycle. I don't think that it's still roughly within the same season, sort of, and usually your market bottoms will come in midterm, like next November. So that's the usual cycle that we get. Although there have been plenty of changes happening, Powell, not flipping his stance, like it took forever, right? So there might be differences in timing this cycle. I think it's quite likely that we're going to see something different. After 2008, the Fed's behavior was extremely predictable. Like they said what they were going to do, and then they did what they said they were going to do. And everyone sort of knew what to anticipate. And so markets were kind of going through a very methodical, like 4-year cycle. And now everything's changed. I'm sure we all feel it, right? Everything's changed. So, what are we going to see next? It's tough to say. I don't think it's going to be as clear cut as just looking at the past and I think it will be somewhat aligned, but also the market structure, the behavior of the market, the behavior of asset prices will likely have some sort of evolution, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely hear you there. So I'd be remiss not to ask you, because I know we're going to be on a little bit limited time here. Bitcoin is breaking up to new all-time highs. We're getting into that exciting thing where it feels like it could be up only for a bit, but it also feels very charged with everybody expecting it. So you keep seeing these huge piles of open interest piling in. So I'm going to shut up. I'm going to give you the floor. If you want to share your screen here, I'd love to look at Bitcoin and Ethereum and maybe some other things that you're looking at.
So let me know if you can see the screen right there.
Yeah, there we go.
Is it showing up? I'm not sure if the format is correct or if it even matters, but
no, it looks perfect.
I can sort of move it around if you need me to. But so right now Bitcoin is, it just bounced perfectly, really perfectly where it needed to in terms of the parabolic trend. And the parabolic trend is something that you guys, anyone who has watched my channel, we've been talking about this like forever, right? People make fun of me for how often I say the word parabola or parabolic. But it's been true. This is like the one analysis that really has not changed, right? You haven't had to really update it or anything like that. There have been short-term parabolic trend breakdowns, like in the, if you're looking at this zone right here, where the price goes exponential and you actually do get a parabolic trend break. In theory, you could argue that here you also got one too. there are multiple parabolic breaks within a major parabolic trend. It's like parabolic inception. It's actually how it goes. Same thing with 2017. Regardless, Bitcoin was able to create really the textbook image of a parabolic trend, right? We have all the necessary bases, and right now we're actually initiating the final, well, in theory, the final parabolic advance. And when I say that, a lot of people get spooked. They go, "Oh my God, did he just say it's over?" People always say that, but I mean, Bitcoin.
But you mean the final stage? What are the possibilities of what a final stage could look like? What do you mean by
Right,
that?
and that's what I'm going to explain. So, first of all, what I say to people is Bitcoin went from 15,000 to currently 125, and I think it's probably going for 140, 150, as a conservative estimate. But the thing is, people have been sort of like brainwashed into thinking that top means over, like Christmas tree, like it goes like this and then like this. And that's really a lot of times in markets, it doesn't happen like all of a sudden where everyone's aware that the top, I mean, nobody knows when it happens. So what I see coming is a longer term, very large distribution pattern for Bitcoin where it's going to sustain higher levels for a much longer period of time than people expect. And this is going to cause people to think that, there's going to be, extended cycle or, whatever people say. But the Fed is lightening up. We started off this cycle with a heavy hand from the Fed, and the last cycle ended for that reason in that way that it did because of the Fed. Now we're getting the opposite, right? So the Fed is lightening up. So I think most likely Bitcoin, now that it's in the final stage of the parabolic trend, it'll most likely go into a vertical stage, a vertical push to prices like 140, 150. The max price I could possibly expect this cycle is 190, but that's my absolute max, right? The minimum, and this was something I set actually a long time ago. It was let me pull this up. It was this image that I created. When was it? Back in February of 2023. This was a calculation I did I used AI to help me figure out what the ratios were, but cycle low to cycle high and cycle high to cycle high, you're looking at the percentage gains, 60,000 divided by 6, 10,000 divided by 5, 2,000 divided by 4, right? And so you can see there's an expected range. The lowest possible price we would have went to is 95,000. Obviously, we've already exceeded that. The highest possible price, according to this calculation, is 190,000. Now, of course, it's just a calculation. Anything can, if the dollar collapses, everything changes, right? So it's not some sort of guarantee. The median price, though, is 142,500. So that is just sort of the sweet spot that I have. It doesn't mean that exact price will be a peak. Bitcoin could, in theory, go vertical because we've been following this parabolic trend, so it's likely to, run up to 140, 150, 160, right? And then at some point, break the parabolic trend and then sustain higher levels for multiple quarters, maybe into Q2 of next year, and maybe even hit a higher high, right? This would definitely have people confused if Bitcoin did something like this. And I think this is going to be possible because the Fed is lightening up. And in this environment, when larger cap assets are distributing, this is when the lower cap assets have their best moments. And we've seen the S&P, just absolutely, rip. I mean, let's go to the monthly
It's been
chart.
Rip City, man.
Like here's the monthly chart for the S&P, right? And then you can go to things like, any of these stocks like Netflix, Meta, Microsoft, Tesla. Just go down the list. It's just all the high caps are already on the moon. And you go to the Russell 2000, which is the low cap stock index. Low cap stocks are in the same exact setup as Ethereum, as the total 3. Same set of, look at this. I'll do a comparison. Here's the Russell 2000 low cap stocks. Now let's look at the low cap crypto indexes. Total 3 has a very similar. Here, let me remove the drawings there.
Yeah, a bit of a flat top resistance, flirting with an all-time high. But
look, here's Ethereum. Look at the Ethereum chart. Look at the Russell. So if you do it really quick, go Ethereum, Russell. It's very interesting to see. They both had that November top, and then the Russell and Ethereum both pulled back to to 2018 levels. Right, the Russell during tariffs hit 2018 levels. You go to Ethereum, it did the same thing. It hit 2018 levels as the same peak in 2021 with the rejection in November, December of 2024. And now they're both resting on their all-time high area. So it's interesting, you know, people think that altcoins are somehow like different than, or, you know, they think there's a problem with altcoins. Maybe there is, I don't know. But when I'm looking at the Russell and I'm looking at Ethereum, I'm like, wow, okay. I mean, it looks like it's just being treated and regarded like a low cap stock. That's what it seems like. So, you know, when like the S&P and all the high cap stocks, if they go into this distribution phase that I'm talking about, where, you know, imagine looking at the chart, right? Let's just use this drawing for fun here that I did earlier here. Imagine if you're looking at this chart and it looked like this in a few months from now. Don't mind the timing on the bottom, but it goes up, it hits a major peak, pulls back, and hits a higher high. I mean, people would be calling for 250, a million or something like that, right? But then imagine if the market just distribution, right? This would be the best case scenario for big players to get rid of their holdings in a efficient way and to get the best possible deal. And this is possible because of the Fed's trajectory now. That's what I think. You know, when interest rates come down, people are going to look to put their money in the market. And so you're going to have a lot of people making that transition from, you know, just having the bank to putting in the market and all types of other reasons. But so again, we started off the cycle with a heavy hand from the Fed, and now it's lightening up. So instead of having, you know, a Christmas tree top like 2021, right here, just up, down, right, where the Fed made it very clear what they were looking to do, it's the opposite. You know, it's I think we're going to be able to sustain higher levels.
Well, I mean, we just got
March.
We just got a new PM, a new prime minister in, not we, but the world just got a new prime minister in Japan. They indicated there's likely stimulus coming. We got word, was it last week, that they likely will be doing some form of stimulus again to the people here in the U.S. Between $1,000 and $2,000. And so that brings it back to what you're just showing there, where we do get some sort of move up. And I've been talking about this for 6 months, a move up, whether it's into the end of this year or even into Q1, whenever the perceptible top is, a sell off. And then we end up setting up something similar to like what we saw in 2021 with these two major tops with massive spreads in price from 64 down to 31, back to 69, and then to sell off, or even something that even chops longer sideways, considering also we have a pretty hotbed political battle going on in the U.S. next year as well with the midterms for control of the House and the Senate. So that's coming at the same time. We're getting rate cuts continue to persist. We have stimulus potentially on the horizon and lower interest rates. You know, all these things. It's just like it's kind of like we're in people still want to look at previous cycles, and I'm like, guys, we're in a one of a kind cycle right now. I feel like.
Yeah, it's going to be strange because I think you know, in a year or a couple of years, we're going to look back and you're going to be able to look at the chart and find similar. You're going to be like, oh, well, it was kind of the same, and then you're going to in the moment, it's probably not going to feel the same at all. That's my expectation. Things won't behave the same. They won't feel the same. It won't act the same. But then in the future, you'll look back and be like, oh, yeah, I guess it was kind of the same. You know what I mean? I think that's what it's going to be like. And you know, the election is always bullish. At least, well, I can't say always, but there is something about the election that makes people think about new possibilities. They're hopeful. Let's pull up. I created, this wasn't on TradingView. I created presidential elections, names, and dates. Nobody had this created, so I was like, all right, I'll do it. It just plots the election and, who was elected. And since 2008, it's just bullish before the election, bullish after, and then dump into midterms. It's basically more or less what happens. So, yeah, I mean, this is the only cycle. Interestingly enough, this is the only cycle where the S&P played out a 20% correction inside of what I call the halving cycle profit zone. And a lot of people have been getting spooked about this because I've talked about this a lot. Halving cycle profit. It's a model that I created essentially just showing when the best time to take profits on. It's a fixed model. It's not like an indicator. It's literally just plotting colors on the screen to show you where the most profitable zones are. And maybe I should go to, Bitstamp long-term chart. And yeah, you can look back here. It might be confusing with the presidents. Let's just do that. Halving cycle profit. 2012 halving. 40 weeks later to 80 weeks later. More specifically, 80 weeks later. I like to just remove profit start and just stick with the profit end because that's the thing that's significant. 2012 halving, 80 weeks after the halving, bear market. 2016 halving, 80 weeks. Bear market begins. 2020 halving, 80 weeks after the 2020 halving, bear market begins. Almost like with complete precision, like except for this, the first halving cycle, which I believe had effects from Mt. Gox that might have shifted it around, but regardless, exactly 80 weeks, almost exactly 80 weeks. And, this...
Where are we at now in the cycle this time? We're coming up on that.
Yeah, we're about to hit it, right? We're about to hit November 3rd, right? Which would be halving cycle profit end zone. And so this has a lot of people worried, like people that followed this, I guess. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, should I be quick to just say that we're going to do the same thing this cycle? Because I look around and I see all these just so many changes, and even like for Bitcoin, the regulatory side of it, and who's actually participating in this market now. The players have changed. There's a lot of things going on that I'm definitely going to keep this in mind. And in fact, personally, I would rather just take profit on Bitcoin in that zone in November and then play the alts as an insurance policy, because Bitcoin has done its job. It's gone from 15 to 100, wherever it's going to be, 125, 140, right? I think it's done its job, right? How many multiples do you really expect to get from it? A good insurance policy would be if you're holding Bitcoin, which I know a lot of people aren't, but if you are selling into this zone because of the hit rate of this being a good sell point in time. Well, if you're willing to play the altcoins, well, it's just an insurance policy. It's all right, take your profit on Bitcoin. You're good. It's done its job. If you want to, I know there's some Bitcoin maxis probably watching, but and then you just play with the altcoins, and there's a lot of percentage gains to be made there, right? Plenty, a lot more than you would get from Bitcoin at this point in the cycle, of what it would do in this cycle, right? Obviously, in the future, much higher. But I'm saying, there's a very, very clear image that we see here, like. This is the time frame. It's done its job by this point in the cycle. Even if the S&P's 20% correction, I want to show you guys this. The S&P, right? Let's look at all the cycles prior using halving cycle profit on the S&P. The timing is sometimes a little different, but it's, somewhat aligned. It's always going straight up. Look at this. Throughout all of the cycles. Change the color of this line here. It's going up. It's trending up. Higher lows, higher highs. No corrections inside of this green halving cycle profit zone. 40 to 80 weeks post halving. It's straight up. every time, no correction. And now check this out. We just had for the first time ever inside of the halving cycle profit zone, it was like a technical bear market. It was a 22% down. You could make an argument that this was a technical bear market. All your indicators reset. RSI hit oversold on the weekly for the S&P. And so it's like, okay, we had arguably a technical bear market inside of the halving cycle profit zone. What does that mean? What does that mean for this cycle if equities have had this reset and now they're continuing? Does it mean that, we're just going to fit within the normal cycle as we always do? Or is this difference in the S&P going to cause a difference, maybe a delay of the top or something, since we had a full reset of all the indicators and now we've bounced back? Does it mean, what was this? How many weeks is that? Like 2 months? Does it mean we're going to push over 2 months than usual? Maybe, right?
But that goes back to what I was saying earlier. I feel like there's historical precedent on the bullish side and there's historical precedent on the bearish side. But then at the same time, with the administration we have in power right now, it feels like a reshuffling of what we're seeing globally in a lot of different ways. Geopolitics, what we're seeing in the financial structure, the fact that mainstream media is now finally on the side of crypto, which it never was before in a cycle, in addition to the biggest asset managers on earth now pushing financial products within the crypto ecosystem, Fed rate cuts coming. It feels like I am going to be very aware between now and December of major sort of bearish signals that may brew, and I'm going to take note of those. But I feel like if I'm betting my money, which I am, I'm feeling like we'll get some sell-off at some point this year that's going to trap people, and it's going to persist up next year. If we just push up all the way through the end of this year and maybe have a small tax harvesting, sell-off that you tend to see going into the end of December. I don't know. I feel like a stair step for a good portion of 2026 is more likely than not, but I am ready and willing to concede if there's different signals that are showing something geopolitical happens and we get a gray swan, not necessarily a black swan, that really shifts the global financial, stage going into some point, whether it's the end of this year, Q1, Q2 next year, then I'll change my sort of thesis. But
some people are saying AI might be something that causes like a change, or
well, you highlighted something very, very kind of worrisome in some ways. Microsoft, Nvidia, Meta, all these major tech companies that have had basically like altcoin-like performance, yet they're multi-trillion-dollar businesses. If those have something that happens bad within their asset or spills over into other assets of that class, you could see a major downturn in all markets that would be overwhelmingly detrimental for a bullish narrative. So I do think, Paul Tudor Jones just said that today or yesterday, that he's feeling like it's very much like the 1999 bubble that we saw from the .com era, but he does also think that we're going to push higher before something like that happens. But then you always get the doom. And I'm not saying he's a doomer, but we've been having this doomer message for 3 or 4 years about this massive crash that's going to come. And this market's just been like, no, dude, we're going higher. We're going higher.
Yeah, it's always been funny to me. Like, there was a few people like Robert Kiyosaki and a few others. They always just say massive crash. The market will go down for like a day or a week, and then they'll claim victory, and then they'll just hit a new all-time high the next month. It's just like I don't understand it, but up and to the right, that's the direction of the market, of all major markets, right, is up and to the right forever, basically, until there's a failure of the country or something, right? Going back to 1871 in the S&P is what we're looking at. It's just up and to the right. The bear's lifespan is limited. It's always up and to the right, especially with the inflation, all that. That's the direction of the market. Same thing with Bitcoin, up and to the right. Despite what happens in the bear markets, which for Bitcoin, it's violent. It's very violent. You drop 70%. But yeah, it's up and to the right. So I think that's something that people always forget. They get so locked in on these these fear narratives and like it's over, like doomsday stuff. And at the end of the day, if you just accumulate, like if you literally just DCA, you'll come out of it with more. Like that's it. It's actually really is that simple. But as human beings, we always overcomplicate everything because we're built for immediate survival. So we're looking at right now. I want now, and we're not thinking about this long term. You know what I mean? So
let me
yeah.
ask you a question as we move towards wrapping this stream out. Altcoins, the altcoin market has felt, it really has. It's felt very muted comparatively than what we've seen in previous cycles. And I kind of explained my thoughts on it a little bit earlier with a lot of the Bitcoin focus that we saw, a lot of the shifting major corporate capital and institutional capital coming in on Bitcoin. But now we're seeing a sort of opening of that gate for corporate interests to feel more comfortable coming in. Now, will they? We'll have to see. But the point I'm making here is you talked about a potential, maybe a slightly higher push up, chop sideways for some time, which would be potentially good for alts, and then a sell off. Do you think that there's enough altcoin hope or confidence there for the altcoin market to actually see a good run up if Bitcoin stops showing bullish confidence in the market at the level it's at now without having that euphoria stage that we've never gotten to in this market?
Yeah, I mean, well, right now there isn't enough confidence in alts for something to happen right now. But that doesn't mean that tomorrow that does it change. I mean, have you seen how quick sentiment changes in crypto? It'd be one day we're down and people are literally jumping like off building. I mean, not to make that joke, but and then the next day the market's up and everyone's talking about their longs. Like it's happened so many times. I'm just like, this is insane. People just flip flop so quickly, and then they basically act like they didn't do it or something. I don't know, but I've seen this for years across Twitter and everything. But right now, no. I mean, the confidence isn't really there. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen. Again, it just one spark, it all changes overnight, basically, right? So that's my point. So the answer is actually it could be there at any time, essentially. Right now, the total 3 is sitting at the all-time high, just like the Russell 2000, just like Ethereum, it's all in the same position, ready for a breakout, right? So if the total 3 begins to, blast through this resistance, and then others, low cap altcoin index begins to push, up to its resistance following the total 3, and that'll be even if it's not the biggest and best alt season of all time, it's a really big opportunity right there. And when the indexes are hitting new all-time highs, even if it was just this small, there's a lot of individual coins that are going to go bananas inside of that all-time high for the indexes, right? People get very excited, right? So even in like the worst case, I think there's going to be really big pumps in the next alt phase. And the total 3 right now is in the trajectory it's in, very simple upward sloping channel. And if we were to just stick with that, well, we're headed for 2 trillion. That's just the trend that we're in. It is very straightforward. So I don't see why we wouldn't continue this, considering that the S&P is on a rocket ship and the Russell 2000 is trying to jump on that ship. It's right there, right? So it's
Clayton Trimble here says it better be one of the best alt seasons. I put 30K in. I think a lot of people are feeling like that. And I would just caution you on that, in that don't get married to positions because you're so exposed or you feel overexposed. One, if you're overexposed, it's going to make you make poor decisions in the market. You're going to act emotionally around those positions. 2, if you have been stacking and you're confident with your thesis, then stick to your thesis. Don't change your thesis because narratives, sentiment changes, because sentiments are rarely a good indication of what's happening in a market. In my opinion, it's kind of like the reverse Kramer effect. Every time I've seen the market flip very bearish sentiment so far, for instance, in Bitcoin and Ethereum, remember, Ethereum was dead. Ethereum was dead at $1,300 this cycle, and now it's at $4,700. So clearly the market has no freaking clue what's going on.
That's what I'm saying. You see how quickly it changes? It goes from being completely dead and everyone hates it to just like a month or two later, it's like the hottest coin. Or again, it's so anything is possible. And if you look at these altcoin indexes, when you look at like this cycle and how quickly these pumps take place, like this move, November 2024, this is the weekly chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. 5 weeks, and the index is up 100% in a month. And so it could be like this month you're like, oh, everything sucks, and then in a month it's like, whoa, right? That's usually how it goes. Crypto kind of takes people by surprise, especially in the altcoin market. It'll just be like a laser beam all of a sudden, and then all this the FOMO begins. All that retail needs to see is that somebody else is confident, and then they will be confident. Well, that's actually all it takes.
This is what I've been watching. I noticed this about a month ago. The structure of what we're seeing in the others chart for everybody out there. This is every altcoin outside of the top 10. And it just feels like it's not going to happen. And then you look at the structure here, and we've had a very similar structure. It's just very stretched out here, and we're right at basically around this point here in the cycle. The question is, are we going to get some larger washout? And then remembering this larger washout was the world shutting down entirely for that to happen. So this red box may not happen. This may get that trickle up. Now the question is, are we going to get something as big as this? Because this was a massive move to the upside. I don't think we're going to get that. But even if we got, let's say, half of that, that would still be, I think there's overwhelming upside to happen. However, the caveat there, and I said this earlier, is that I don't think this is going to be like it was in 2017, where you threw a dart at the board and every altcoin ran, because there's only 50, 100, 200. Oh my God, there's 300. How can there be enough capital? Now there's 26 million coins throughout the entire ecosystem. They're not all going to move.
I was actually just talking about this today in my Discord voice chat, this exact conversation. And 2017 was the cycle of discovery of crypto and ignorance. People were buying it. They had no clue really what was going on, how it works or anything. It was just like, oh, Bitcoin, this thing I just heard of. Oh, there's another one. Oh, it's cheaper. And they buy it, right? It was discovery and
exploration.
Whatever. I don't know how I just forgot that. But you get the point. So, like, could that happen right now? No, you can't get a cycle where everyone forgets what crypto is and then behaves the same way to get that outcome. That can't happen. But even if this cycle isn't the most greatest spectacular cycle of all time, I mean, each cycle can't just be like more spectacular each time. This cycle might be more subdued. That's fine. And as far as I'm concerned, this industry is lacking good innovation in the sense that, like, there's not enough use of a lot of these projects. People just store the coins, and we need to get like real stuff going. And I think next cycle, there will be enough time that has passed where people will have that renewed sentiment towards crypto, and enough innovation will have taken place where it's going to be absolutely bananas. And a lot of people are going to look at this cycle, and next cycle they're going to go, oh, I'm going to stay away from the altcoins. But in that cycle, it's going to be the altcoins.
I think there's going to be some concentration of capital into not just niches in the altcoin sector, but specific assets within each niche. Because what we're doing now is like you just said, 2017 was the discovery. Oh my God. And everybody was just like, oh, Bitcoin did that. Every altcoin I get is going to do the same thing Bitcoin did. But then there was this capital rush, also mostly retail. And there was some VC funding and stuff as well. But then now we're looking at this cycle. Corporations and institutions are now starting to become aware of this space, but they're not going to go YOLO into every coin because a coin just launched on a launch pad. They're going to look at real due diligence, like they do in the business, in the marketplace, looking at revenue, actual, not just oh my God, how many wallets are there? How many are there active wallets? Not just buying and selling, but as you said, and I guarantee every single one of you watching right now, say you had 10 coins. How many of those 10 coins that you hold have you used the actual purpose of the ecosystem of that coin you're holding? Almost none of you have used one specific actual use case, like Arrow. Okay, have you gone and used the base DEX, Arrow's DEX, or are you just holding it? Chainlink, are you using any of the data services? And Oracle, have you put something on chain with RWA? Cardano. I mean, there's not a lot of development in terms of the app space there, but a lot of speculation about the stoking of what can happen is still happening very broadly in the space. And I think there's going to be some very clear winners in specific niches and specific assets within those niches that have business-like business plans of what's the revenue model, what's the fee structure, what's the data of the growth of adoption of users. But I think we're still, I think there's still room left in this market cycle. I think we all need to be adaptable day in and day out and realize that Kevin doesn't have a damn clue. I don't have a damn clue. We got to break down this data on a daily basis.
I was going to say something that Matthew Hyland said recently. That was a good point. He said all the best performers, all the best altcoin performers in the last cycle didn't do anything until Ethereum hit an all-time high, and then they started trending from their lowest point. So there's, again, anything is possible. Maybe this cycle it is spectacular. Maybe it's just like isolated pumps or whatever. But last cycle, nothing happened really until Ethereum hit the all-time high, and then all of a sudden, like Polygon shows up and it goes 100x, and it's like out of nowhere. So there may be coins right now that you don't own that are out there sitting there at a low point, or maybe going to be released in the next few months. And then Ethereum hits an all-time high, and then the interest comes, and then all of a sudden there it is. So my mind is open. I think that it's a very transformative period, right? And so even though I'll say this and I'll say that, I'm kind of just looking at it. I'm not going to be like too opinionated. I'll have an idea of what I think is going to happen, but it's like just go with what happens. I mean, nobody knows what the hell's going on in this world half the time.
I mean, I wouldn't have
just got to go with the flow.
I wouldn't have put 100% pump on Zcash in this cycle on my bingo card, and yet here we are. And I'm not calling out Zcash. I'm just saying, there's certain focuses that all of us, myself and every one of you watching here, and Kevin as well, we have lens bias where we're focused on stuff, not really. Like, for instance, BNB is a major component of the crypto ecosystem and very entrenched, especially on the eastern half of the world. And it's been out of people's radar for the last year. And now you pull up BNB and you're like, golly, BNB is just melting to the upside. Today, like right now, it's at $1,222. And look what it did last time it did this. This right here would have been akin to where we're at right here. Is that going to happen again? Or are we all just too fractal hype based? Like,
maybe it'll be the best cycle of all time. Imagine that if this was the best alt cycle of all time, and like nobody would have expected it. Like it just pops out of nowhere.
And there's gonna be a lot of hurt feelings because people would have moved on, because that's what markets do. They remain irrational longer than most people stay in or stay solvent. So you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say the BNB comment. We have the stock market, S&P going up, Bitcoin going up, all the high cap stocks going up, and then you have high cap cryptos, BNB, XRP, and then the low caps are down. It's actually reflecting the stock market pretty strongly. Like it's interesting. Anyway, I just thought
Well, Kevin, I always love having you on, and again, I'll share this up on the deal.
Here. I forgot to share it on Twitter.
No, just make sure you go give Kevin a follow. He's new to crypto. He's been here in about a week. No, he's been in the game for a long, long time. Go give him a follow at Kevin Svensson _. He's got his own Patreon, of course, as well, and he's trading. He's sharing charts and data on a daily basis. Also, some pretty funny video clips and stuff sometimes too. Always great stuff there. So give him a follow. But I'll throw it back to you. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to close with here?
Usually when you're bullish going into the holidays, you stay bullish for the holidays. If you look at any chart like Bitcoin, S&P, and if you're bearish going into the holidays, you stay bearish for the holidays. So we're bullish going into the holidays right now. It means we're going to have a bullish holiday. Well, of course, the volatility, the day of whatever, the day of Christmas or something. But generally speaking, it's up from here through the holidays. It's very high hit rate, very high hit rate of that taking place.
Well, I love it. Well, I appreciate it. And everybody out there tuned in, I want to shout out each and every one of you for being here. I do appreciate you. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ding the bell, all the things. Drop some comments there in the live chat and comment down below when this is over. What's your preferred alt? What alt do you think is going to absolutely melt faces? I do want to shout out our partners as well, Bitcoin IRA. I just did something with them that's going to go out on their podcast. Make sure you check them out, bitcoinira.com. And of course, Arculus. Head over to getarculus.com. Use code DC20. That's D as in discover, C as in crypto, and then the number's 20 for 20% off. Protect your crypto, protect your future. But Kevin, thank you for being here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all in the next one. Adios, everybody.
See you guys. Thank you.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.